I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get underway, there's a number of matters that I usually like to cover before we get going. Usually I have a cheat sheet that tells me, but I think at this point I can probably remember most of it. First off, in the event of a fire or other emergency, you will be notified. Please move in a calm and orderly fashion should that occur to the doors to your left. Use either the north or the south stairs to exit the building. Our meeting is recorded, and our Secretary, Michelle, is going to be taking things down during the meeting, which she will then later use to draw up the minutes of our meeting. She is not taking a verbatim transcript, however. In order to help her when you come to the podium, you need to state your name and your address so that she can ascribe the comments that you make to you and not to somebody else who might not share the same thoughts or wish to have their name appear in the minutes. The way we proceed is we have an agenda. We proceed in the order in which the items are listed on the agenda. There are extra copies of the agenda on the table to the right of the door as you come into the room. When we call the case, the applicant or their representative steps up to the podium, gives us their name and address. Then they will pause for a moment. We'll place them under oath, and then they will proceed to explain to us why they feel that they're entitled to the relief that they're requesting, or why we should grant what they're asking us to grant. During that presentation, members of the board may have questions or comments for the applicant. That is an opportunity for the board to engage the applicant or their representative, not persons who are in attendance at the meeting. Once the applicant has concluded their presentation and any questions or comments that the board wishes to make have all been completed, we'll then open it for public input. There are 3 categories so far of public input that we've identified or that have been identified for us. The first is those who wish to speak in favor of the application. We ask that anyone who wants to speak in favor of the application line up on the west side of the room by the door and come forward one at a time, state your name and address. You do not get sworn, and make whatever comments that you want to make in support of the application. Those comments are addressed to the board. They are not addressed to the applicant. Thereafter, we open everybody who wishes to speak in favor has spoken, we open it to those who wish to speak in opposition to the application, and we follow the same procedure. Line up over at the side of the room, come forward to the podium one at a time, state your views to the board, not to the applicant. And when we've concluded with everyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application, we then open to the third category that evolved about a year and a half ago, I think, of someone who wanted to talk to us about it, but they weren't in favor of it and they weren't opposed to it. So if you want to talk to us about it, or about things like fences or chickens or those kinds of things in general, that's your opportunity to do that. When that has been concluded, we then give the applicant or their representative the opportunity to return to the podium and address any issues or concerns that arose during the public hearing. And again, the board can engage them in discussion or questions. Once that process is completed, then we'll close the case with respect to that hearing, and we'll move on to the next hearing on the agenda. Once we've completed all the cases on our agenda, we'll take a break. It's usually 5 to 10 minutes. I'll announce the length of the break when we get there. After the break, we come back. At that point, we deliberate on the cases that we've heard. That process, you're welcome to stay for. It's open to the public, but it is not open to further public input unless the board specifically has a question addressed to either the applicant, their representative, or someone in the audience. You do not have to stay for the deliberative process. If you want to know what the board's decision was with respect to a particular case, you can either watch it on TV or you can call tomorrow morning to the zoning office after 9 o'clock, and they'll be glad to tell you what the board's decision was. We deliberate on the cases in the order in which the cases appear on the agenda and for which the applicant remains present. So if the applicant on the first case has left to go home and the applicant on the second case is present, we would take the second case first. Then we would take any other cases for which the applicant is present. Then we go back to the top to the first case and take the rest of the cases until we're concluded. Once we conclude deliberation and action on all of the cases that are before us, we take up any other business that needs to be taken care of. That could consist of reviewing and approving minutes of prior meetings, determining whether or not we would agree to have some other agency act as a lead agency for seeker purposes on another application, or things of that nature. Generally, they're administrative, ministerial things that we take up at that time. Once those are concluded, we are adjourned for another month, generally. In the last few months, there have been a number of comments that have been made during hearings concerning our job. And so I thought that this might be an opportune time to clarify exactly what our job is. It has been said to us rather vociferously on several occasions that our job is to enforce the town code. And I'm sorry to say that is exactly not our job. Town zoning boards are by their nature in derogation of individuals' rights to use their property as they wish. And so what saves them from being an unconstitutional taking of an individual's property rights is the existence of zoning boards of appeals that are empowered to grant variances to the regulations that apply by virtue of the town code under certain circumstances that make it warranted to do so. There are three types of matters that we generally consider. One is an area variance, which requires a showing of a practical hardship. I'm not going to get into all the details, but there are 5 factors that we consider, and basically it is a practical hardship standard. It is not a difficult standard to establish, but it is a standard, and it's not always established. The second category of variance is a use variance. That is a variance that requires us to find that none of the uses under the code would allow a property owner to realize a reasonable rate of return on their property. And that standard requires the property owner, the applicant, to come forward with dollars and cents proof that they cannot realize a reasonable rate of return on their property as it's zoned for any permissible use under the ordinance. The third, both area variances and use variances run with the land, which means that once we grant them, and assuming the applicant takes advantage of them within a year and uses them, they stay in effect forever. So when we evaluate that, we are concerned not only about how the current owner and applicant might handle a situation, but we also look to the future and what if the owner in the future isn't as responsible or as considerate of neighbors as the current one, what could the impact of our decision be? The third category that we deal with is special use permits, and we have one of those on our agenda tonight. A special use permit is where we have been given the authority by the town board to establish rules and regulations or conditions to make a use that the town board has determined is appropriate in the district that the property lies, to make it compatible with the neighborhood and with whatever concerns we may have that are specific to that property. A special use permit does not run with the land. Generally, it is limited to a certain period of time. We've had several special use permits that we've dealt with recently. Chickens fall in the category of a special use permit. wind towers fall in the category of a special use permit. A lot of times an applicant asks us to grant the variance, and people come and tell us that they are opposed to the variance for various reasons. It's important to understand when you're looking at what we're doing, it's important to understand what we're being asked to do, because that's what we have to focus on. When we're asked to allow someone to erect a fence that is taller than what the ordinance permits, it is not a question, for example, of whether or not the fence is appropriate. The question is the 6 inches or 2 feet on top of what is allowed, is that appropriate? And that's the issue that we have. Sometimes it's an issue of whether or not what is appropriate can be put at one spot on the property as opposed to another spot on the property. And sometimes what we're asked to do is to grant variances for things that are allowed at certain times of the year and not allowed at other times of the year. For example, boats, RVs, those kinds of things are allowed in driveways between, I think it's April 1st and November 1st, but between November 1st and April 1st, they're not, unless we grant a variance. So the function of our board is not to enforce the town code, but to determine whether or not in individual cases applying criteria that are established by the statute and the courts, it is appropriate to grant an exception to the applicant. The other thing that I want to clarify is nobody on this board is elected. Nobody on this board is compensated for their service. We are all volunteers. We serve a term of 7 years because there are 7 members of the board. Every year, one member of the board is at the end of their term, and a new 7-year term with perhaps a new member or perhaps a continuing member starts January 1st of the next year. So there is stability and continuity in our board, and there has been for quite some time. And we're not elected. We are all volunteers. We are all residents of the town. We are all interested in ensuring that Irondequoit remains the best town in Monroe County, and that's our commitment, and we try and fulfill that. So I hope that helps clarify some of the mistaken information that we've been hearing, and we will open with our first case so you can see us in action.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that great presentation. First item on the agenda is case number ZB 1609-1. Upon the matter of request by Amir Softek for a special use permit to harbor 10 rabbits pursuant to section 235-70 of Irondequoit Town Code on premises 76 Paxton Road in an R1 residential district.
Good evening. My name is Amir Softek. Address is 76 Paxton Road. I do have 2 items for board that I did not provide before. One is pictures of the property if you didn't come to see it.
Before you go further, I need you to raise your right hand.
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that everything you say today will be the truth, the whole truth, or nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
So I do have some pictures of the property. It shows the rabbits and hutches and all that. And I also have some signatures of letter of support from the neighbors.
Okay, if you could hand those to Mr. Evans, and we'll take a look at those. How long have the rabbits been there?
About 3 years.
All right, because they didn't look like young rabbits to me.
No, they grow very fast. All of them are under 1 year old.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They mature at 8 months.
And how long do you generally have the rabbits with you? I know you have 8 there now.
8, I'm asking for permit for 10, but they pretty much stayed all the time there.
It looked to me like you had cages for the 8 that you have, but I didn't see any others.
No, there's only 8 right now on premises. There's possibility that the female can have babies. That's why the kids can be in the same cage with mom.
All right. So there wouldn't be any additional cages to go beyond the 8?
No, only 2 hutches.
And you have one female?
I have 3 breeds, 3 females.
Do they have more than one baby at a time, more than one rabbit at a time?
Yes, sometimes they can have 1, sometimes they can have 8.
8?
So if you have a litter, you're going to have more than 10 at the house at any particular time that you have a litter.
Yes, what I'm asking is for the number 10 of mature rabbits. I did not count.
But then you're going to have puppies too, right?
Yes, the kids are little babies, baby bunnies. When I go to the shows with family, we usually donate some to 4-H kids that are into raising rabbits. We do that. Few of them we sell, and few of them are just gifts.
And right now you don't have any of their kits?
No,
No, what do you call the young rabbits?
the baby rabbits are called kits.
Kits. All right.
No, I did not breed anything since last spring, and all that is gone.
All right. I noticed the 8 that you have. I couldn't hear them even when I was right on top of them. They're pretty quiet.
Yes, they are.
Are the kits quiet like that too?
Yes, unless they get scared and they squeak, but that never happens. Unless you molest them or something happens to them, they get hurt, which doesn't happen.
Now, you actually take these rabbits and show them?
Yes, we do. Actually, this Saturday is a show in Batavia. We also go next month for a mini convention in Syracuse every year. We spend a weekend there with family, with friends. We get ribbons, we win prizes. These are very, very unique rabbits. They're rare, they're heritage breed. They're very rare in New York State, especially cinnamons. They're also endangered on the list. So what we do, we show them, and with other rabbit people that we know, it becomes like a hobby, and it is a hobby for all my family. We view them as our pets.
And how often are the cages cleaned?
Once a week.
Once a week?
And they're outside all the time.
I'm sorry?
Are they outside all season, all year?
If it's really, really cold, I bring few of them inside. The hutches are covered in the winter time also. They have plenty of hay. They have either nesting boxes or wind-blocking boxes. They need to have ventilation. So the winter is actually their preferred time, and they don't mind being in the winter. The summer is worse for them. Summer heat is really worse for them.
So they had a really good winter and a bad summer.
They don't like summers at all.
Yeah.
You have to provide them with frozen bottles on the really hot days. Things like that. Keep air moving. That's why they're in the back of the garage for ventilation purposes.
Where do you store all the food and stuff for them? Are they in containers so nothing
They're,
can get in
they're
them?
inside, and then I bring for like weekly feeding. I bring it inside either a 5-gallon drum. It's closed. Nothing gets to it. It's away from the rain.
So you have the food in the garage, is that it?
I keep food inside in a dry space, because they come in bags, and then I bring it out for once a week feeding, and I just refill it in garage.
Okay.
I'm just curious, one of these pictures shows some conduit going up the side of the,
Yes, inside the hutch there's automatic watering system. They have like a chicken nipples. That's
For
where the
watering.
rabbits can drink in the summertime. In the wintertime, that's all frozen. I shut it off. What you see is a drainage pipe that you can drain and clean the water container.
Do you have any problems with fox or coyotes or anything trying to get in?
I never seen foxes or coyotes in the neighborhood.
No?
Not even deer in my area.
You're lucky.
How about any rats at all?
I did see some mice in the springtime. I do have mice traps that I catch a few of them, but I haven't seen anything lately.
Have you had any complaints from any of your neighbors about any of that?
No.
Bless you. Your packet, there's a complaint.
Yeah, a bunch of them.
Are all the rabbits vet checked? I think you wrote in the letter that you take them to the vet. and they're checked.
Either they get monthly checks by me before, especially before shows. They get their nails clipped, the ears checked for ear mites, just usual checks, of the fur and things like that. If they do really become sick, which I knock on wood didn't have any of those, I take them to the vet. I also get input from my other friends, breeders around in the area.
Thanks.
And I guess I wasn't clear on, I know you're asking for 10, but can you explain to me why the 8 that you have isn't enough?
It can be enough. 8 could be enough.
But the problem would be as soon as you had some small ones, babies, you'd be over the limit then.
Exactly. That doesn't happen all the time, and they're distributed as they have to be 8 weeks old to be rehomed. So they are only there for 8, maybe 15 weeks maximum.
They wouldn't be considered adult, right?
No, the adult rabbit is from 8 months and up.
Because the description of what you were seeking was up to 10 adult rabbits.
Yes.
And the other 2 would be for what purpose? Just to have?
Just to have, because we have to have male and females.
Well, you have 3
Sometime-
females and 5 males at this point, right?
Well, I have to think what I have.
I thought you told me you had 3 females.
Right now, I have 3 breeds. I gave 2 away to a friend because I can only have 8 in each section right now because nothing was bred. Well, I'm asking for 10 because it gives me more availability to cross breed. So they're not. Sometimes I want to keep what I like from the litter and then give older one away, let's say. So that gives me a little bit more room to play. But
Would they be housed in the same kind of cage as the other 8 are now?
yes, they'll be housed in the same 2 hutches.
The same 2 hutches?
Yes,
So they'll be doubling up some in,
yes.
okay.
Because a female dog can be with either kit or other female rabbit from the same breed. They will not fight if they know it, especially if mom and daughter, let's say.
Okay.
They will not fight for all that period of time until the other one matures enough. Then they need their own space. The reason I gave 2 away because they were getting big, and I did not want them to escalate because I only had to have 2 hutches in the back. So I'm like, okay, I need to like give 2 more away because I have no room for them right now, as it is.
All right. Now, I know that when the issue of chickens come up, there are issues of illnesses and diseases that the chickens are prone to or apt to sometimes spread. Is there any, we don't know, I know less about rabbits than I know about chickens. And all I know about chickens is what I've learned here, so is there anything like that about rabbits that you're aware of?
There's few things that you have to watch out, like giving them proper diet. The most sickness that comes from their stomach, what they eat. So you have to watch for that. You make sure you have to have clean water for them all the time. The other thing, in the summertime, the ear mites may be a problem, but if you're on top of it, you can fix that easily. That's nothing life-threatening. They do molt once a year. With that hot weather, and they can get fur mites also. There's treatment for that too. Same as for cats or dogs.
And do you have a veterinarian that checks on your rabbits periodically?
Like I said, I didn't have any sick rabbits to take to the vet yet, but I do have friends that have a lot of experience with that, and I get their input. I also do my weekly or monthly checks depending on the show schedules. So I do check on that.
Are rabbits at all kept indoors? You know, people over the years have had rabbits as a pet.
Yeah.
And most of the time they keep them indoors.
They can be indoors, sure.
Can your rabbits be kept indoors?
8 of them, there'll be a lot more smell to it maybe indoors because they need to have ventilated area, like I was mentioning earlier. So their preferred area would be outside.
So even in the garage,
People do have them inside the house as pets, but they have to do more cleaning for them too.
right? You have obviously some neighbors that are complaining about them. Are you aware of that?
I am now.
Yeah.
Nobody came to talk to me first, so that's why we're here.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Do you have to have this many, these, I mean, if it was limited to 2 or 3, would that work for you?
Not really.
How many
It's
lines?
it's same as I mean, they're pets. I already cut down a lot.
How many genetic lines are you breeding?
I have 3 breeds,
So you have 3 lines?
3 lines.
Okay, so per breed, how many lines do you have? Because usually you have usually when you do genetics, you kind of spread them out so cousins can mate with each other, et cetera.
Sure.
So how many lines are you tracking?
Well, I do have a few of my own lines that I developed.
Okay,
We also can use other bucks, males, as a shows and breed that line in. So there's other possibilities that people don't have enough rabbits that can use other people's rabbits.
okay, when you say that you have a few lines, so you've developed 2 of your own lines?
There's few, yes.
Okay, so what's a few? Give me a number.
It's not just my line. It's the pedigree consists. Let's say this is a pedigree. So mine would be like a father and a mother.
Okay,
Before that, most likely would not be my line.
okay.
The kid would be my line.
Right, so to maintain one genetic line, how many rabbits do you need?
That depending on what you want to keep from the litter and improve on that. If
By color, size, et cetera, or?
there's a lot of criteria for showing rabbits on type, fur, all those points match 100%. So you have to, when you have a litter, you go through the litter before you give any away. If you want to keep any that is better than mom and dad, that's what you want to keep.
What percentage of the litter meets your show criteria?
10%.
Okay, so out of 8 rabbits, you may keep 1 that you show, and the rest are given away because they don't meet the criteria for maintaining that line.
Exactly. Roughly. Sometimes they all look nice, but then they may lack some other attributes.
Now, you don't have any problems with raccoons? You said in the rats and the foxes, but raccoons have been known to,
No raccoons at all. I used to have a dog, so they stay away from the dog smell. I assume.
I know because a raccoon ate my rabbit. Okay, so, all right.
I'm sorry.
That was only 10, but it was still emotional.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
Try to move back.
Yep, step aside.
Hello, my name is Vic Cavalieri. I live 73 Armstrong Avenue. My lot abuts his lot. I have a petition to present. I do that now.
Yep, hand that to Mr. Evans.
And there's some other extraneous information there which will tie in with my speech.
Okay.
Okay, we've had rabbits there for approximately 2 or 3 years. I have several questions. The permit was the appeal was very broad and not really specific about, for example, what happens to the rabbits if the permit is denied. Or will code enforcement people, staff, check the reharboring of rabbits as he gets rid of them? The town is aware that we have a rat infestation. I talked to the lady who signed the petition, lives next door to him on Paxton, and she says she has rats drinking out of her swimming pool. She has an above-ground swimming pool. She was very upset. I included some additional information in that little package I just presented with how much space is required to make rabbits happy, so to speak. My specific concern is that 76 Paxton Road has a wide lot, but it's very, very narrow. The rabbits are kept behind the house. 3/4 of this house is located approximately 6 to 8 feet from my backyard lot line. So it's a very narrow, but it's wide. Okay. It seems that the dropped food, this is according to the neighbor I talked to with the pool, the dropped food from the cages attract the rats as well as other wild animals in our area. The rats are running through our garden. My wife is an avid gardener, and in that package I presented there is a copy of the latest Arundiquoit garden a tour, which was in our backyard. We had over 150 people there in a 3-hour period. So she's she's not an amateur gardener. She's well known. Anyway, the rats are running through our garden. The town's reputation is at stake, and the smell and the rats were observed during the garden tour, if they are observed during the garden tour. And there's quite a few people who would remember that and maybe spread the word around that there's rats in this yard in Arundiquoit where we had a garden tour, you know. But anyway, I don't know if that would depress values of our property or not, but we've already had, on Armstrong Avenue, we've had 3 houses repossessed by the bank. One of them had a swimming pool in the back, which was neglected for years. I'm digressing a little bit here, but anyway, the new owner filled in the swimming pool with a bunch of garbage, junk, anything that was left by the previous people. I'm getting orders from headquarters here.
Understood.
Anyway, we went to complain to the town board, and we were told that we should have had a police complaint at the time that the filling of the swimming pool with the debris was going on. I didn't realize that, but I didn't think it was worth a 911 call. And it makes you feel like your word doesn't really count, you know? Anyway, I guess the rat problem is serious, and I don't think the town has.
What I wanted to ask you about the
My
rat,
next-door neighbor trapped one, and the town came and demised it, I guess, and brought his trap back. So the town knows we have a rat problem, at least the people in the animal control center.
so have you had an issue with rats? You mentioned one was trapped.
Pardon, Sue?
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry.
I have a
He
hearing problem, I'm sorry.
Fine, you
He had
can-
a
you can
stroke.
speak as well.
Thank you. He had a stroke last year, so we were a little slow here.
That's
so
fine, you can speak
Please
too.
bear with me. Thank you for being so kind.
What's the matter?
Yes, we do have a little rat problem, and these are the people that trapped it, and we've been trying to trap, but we haven't had any luck yet. And we do have, I noticed an increase in groundhogs.
Could you state your name and your address
I'm
first?
sorry.
That's all right.
Catherine Cavalieri, also at 73 Armstrong Avenue, okay? We've also noticed an increase of wild rabbits also in the neighborhood, across the street and running through the yards and decimating my garden. And yes, I am a gardener. And so it's, the most important thing is, this is not personal. This is not personal. This is just that people were just very upset about the deterioration of the neighborhood and the problem, the rodent and the smell problem. And in the information that we gave you, I also Googled, and there's information from the internet on how rabbits are raised in cages and the closeness. There's people that raise them up to 20 rabbits in basements of their homes that are, for show bunnies and that type of thing. I think that's also the information I put on there. So it is possible to do that in an enclosed environment. I understand that it would be hard to clean every day if you're working and that type of thing, but, your passion is your passion. You do what you have to do. So thank you very much for your patience and understanding.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, if I may,
Yes, sir.
again, this goes to what I said at the beginning, that having rabbits is a use that's approved by the town, provided that a special use permit is granted by us on terms and conditions as are appropriate in the particular case. So I understand that there are rats in town that are, I don't know that they're all attracted by the rabbits at Paxton or not, but what suggestions, if any, would you offer to us as conditions that might alleviate the rabbits, at least, as a source of any issue with the rats? Besides not keeping any food outside, I think that's pretty obvious from what you said.
According to the neighbor next door that lives next door to him that have the swimming pool, and, she has viewed the rats, quite frequently in her yard, will not let her grandchildren out into the yard anymore to eat or whatever, and she has talked with him with regard to this, and that there was a problem, because then they were on the side beside the swimming pool, because if you will see by our pictures, you see how narrow it is, and there are a couple containers up on top of from the pictures that we took. And it's only an 8-foot space in there. And that is really, the smell is trapped between our fence and the back of his house. The smell is trapped. There's no way that it can, unless we have a nice windy day, which we've had a lot of, the smell will move along. But, I can understand his passion, in wanting to do this, something like this, but I know he says he gives them away, but when you're a prime breeder, do you not be tempted to sell if someone asked for you a few money for them? That would be a business. And other than, I wish that woman was here tonight that is his neighbor, but I apparently couldn't make it. But we do have the other neighbors that have witnessed the rodents running rampant. The problem is that we never noticed any rodents before this last couple years when the cages were moved to the back end of the area. That, I guess, is the problem.
Had they been there before somewhere else?
Well, as he stated, he didn't have as many rabbits. It's just growing. And, he had them on the side of the house next to the swimming pool. And, that gave him a little bit more air circulation, too. So,
Have you noticed any rats near the rabbits?
no, because we have a 6-foot fence, all right? What they do is they burrow under the fence, and then, they run. I had to stop feeding birds. He's also a birder. They had to stop feeding birds also, because we thought maybe perhaps they were getting additional food under our bird feeders. So we had to stop feeding our birds and take all our bird feeders in. So, it's, I don't know. I'm not a very good public speaker, so bear with
fine.
me here. Any other questions? Because I have the pictures there to show that they're very close. And there are containers on top and beside.
I should mention right here,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir?
that's okay, I'm used to that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I should mention that when I was at the house observing the rabbits, that I asked Mr. Softic how the town learned about the rabbits in the first place. Because obviously the town didn't know until something went on. And he told me that there was a neighbor across the back that put a new fence up, a
Yes,
white 6-foot fence.
yes.
And I guess when the town came to inspect the fence, that's when they discovered the rabbits. So I'm not sure what happened after that, if he was told, well, you gotta have a permit for these rabbits or what, I don't know. But my question and my concern is, if the neighbor had never put up a white fence, would this even have come to the zoning board or been discussed or anything?
I understand that the woman that lives next to him has already called the Monroe County Health Department, all right, because of the fear with her grandchildren out there. The reason the 6-foot fence was put up was because of the smell, the odor, and they have a small child now, and they didn't want him to be in that area. So that's the reason they put up the 6-foot fence. It's a young couple, and that's the reason they put the fence up. They didn't want to see the rabbit area.
Well, I must say, and I went back there, first of all, I mean, it's not the neatest backyard in the world, but it didn't look to me like it was a wreck or anything. I mean, there was obviously some work going on. It didn't smell anything, didn't hear anything, and I thought to myself, who could object to this? Well, rodents is a different story. That's a whole different story, and that's a little more difficult to pinpoint that it's rampant or if there's an occasional one. I mean, a lot of neighbors will have a rat in it once in a while without going overboard with it. So it's going to be a judgment call. And I will say, too, that in the information that we received, there was mentioned that granting this permit would open the door to other applications and so on. And that may be true, but it doesn't mean they're guaranteed. And I think this board has been very good about not setting precedences, that we grant things we've done with chickens and that type of
Yes,
thing.
I know
But
there's
not
chickens.
just, taken for granted. The people that bring these things have to tell us or show us that they know what they're doing, that they have the concern for the neighbors and safety and health and the whole smash. So we're not setting any precedents here either.
And only, like you said, that someone viewed them. So if other people have animals that, that they don't normally keep in this area or whatever, I'm just, I guess I'm just a little oversensitive because of the 3 zombie houses. Mr. Bello was nice enough to come down and tour the houses and that type of thing. But, Armstrong used to be a beautiful street. And so I'm just wanting to keep Arundecoit the way it was. I guess I'm old-fashioned, and I just don't, I hate to see the things, 2-foot-high grasses. And I know that everybody's working and everybody's really busy and it's been really super hot. But, your home is your investment, and that's one of the reasons that why we bought in Arundecoit. We moved back from Florida, and we bought in Arundecoit because everything is so convenient here, and everything was so beautiful. And I know it's changing, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Step right up. Can we have your name and address, sir?
Good evening. My name is Paul Spindler. I live at 85 Armstrong Avenue. The Cavaliers are my next door neighbors, and I respect the gentleman that wants his rabbits. He's friendly. We, wave to one another now and then, but I'd say in maybe the last month, I'm an avid bird feeder. I belong to the Rochester Birding Association. I enjoy the birds at my feeder, and this is the first time rats have showed up. I've had one, I caught one in my Havahart trap I put out in the town. Animal control took care of that. And they're hard to catch, but I've had maybe 3 of them come in the last month. And I look at them close and they're different colored a little, and so they're different rats. I've never had rats and I've been there for 39 years. So I don't know if it's because of the rabbit or they're just coming into town on their own from somewhere and, eating birdseed. But that's my experience. So I got nothing against these people. They're fine people. But I just want to let you know what I've experienced. Okay, that's all I have to share.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anyone else that wished to speak in opposition to the application? Is there anyone who'd like to talk to us about rabbits, rats, cages, whatever? All right, Mr. Softic, could you come back up? Your neighbors have are indicating that there's been an increase in rat activity in your neighborhood. And they've caught one. Have you seen rats in your yard at all?
Only mice in the spring.
Mice in the spring. So you haven't seen any rats in your yard, but your neighbor.
I did see the holes, like the gentleman was mentioning, between the fences. I thought it was chipmunks because they come into my yard and they dig through a retaining wall. I do have chipmunks around. I do have also garden, and I like gardening myself. But I haven't noticed them eating my vegetables or nothing like that. I also know that they do rats get attracted to the bird feeders. I mean, we used to have it in school where I work, and we used to have it on windows for kids to see birds coming to the classrooms, and we had to eliminate that because there was a lot of mice and maybe even rats down the road.
Do you sell? How often do you sell them?
Seasonal, depending when I breed them. Sometimes I do exchange them. Like I give them. I also have noticed that if I give somebody, they sign it. They receive the gift from me. So I do have that too.
How much do you get when you sell a rabbit? One of your good ones.
They usually go from 20. Some of them can be 50. Depending what the breeder is looking for.
I assume we're talking dollars and not hundreds or thousands.
Dollars.
Yeah.
Again,
I received these. Few of my rabbits came from Washington State, and other ones came from New Hampshire. These are very rare breeds. They're not just any rabbit.
were they expensive? Did you purchase them, or did?
I received 2 from Washington State as a gift myself.
Okay.
So it goes like that. It's not all about money.
Well, you mentioned, or I asked a question earlier about housing them inside. Is that feasible? I mean, even if you adapted your garage or something, put the pens inside?
It can be for a short time. Summertime, it's not feasible for them because they need the air movement and really good quality air to breathe. Otherwise, they're going to have the immune system down. They're going to have the respiratory problems.
Even if you put a ventilation system in?
I didn't want to risk with these rabbits, honestly. I didn't want to risk their health just to find out that I failed on that because I can't just go back to Washington State and get them again, being very rare.
I think it's a nice hobby, and I think you're enjoying what you do. But I think the disruption in the neighborhood with the rat infestation is a large concern. And we did have a chicken issue. We have allowed chickens in different areas, and we did have one that had a particular rat issue, and I believe they finally gave up and got rid of the chickens. Or we.
No, they kept the chickens and the rats.
I think they got rid of the rats.
They got
Got
rid of
rid
the
of the
rats.
rats? Okay.
Yeah, they brought an exterminator in.
I'm not really sure where the rats are coming from. It's not. They don't eat rabbit pellets. The rabbit pellets are way up high, and they're enclosed.
Right, but if you're feeding them, I noticed the way the cages are set up, if the rats are eating, they could be spilling food out onto the ground.
I think rats will be more attractive to the bird feeders than rabbit pellets because rabbit pellets are just grass. They can find grass anywhere else to eat, in my opinion.
Again, the rat infestation is a concern. Again, I feel your passion for your animals, and I understand it, but I worry about the neighborhood.
I have rats, mice traps. Like I said, all I caught was mices and one chipmunk.
Did I understand that moving inside with the rats or the rabbits inside is just not a possibility?
Not in the summertime because of the air movement and being so hot. I would have to have the space air conditioned and really move a lot of air. I just don't want to risk their health by doing so.
Okay.
In the wintertime, that's a different story. It's much cooler. It's much healthier for them to be indoors, obviously.
Isn't the garage generally cooler in the summer than outside?
My garage is really hot.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a ridge
I
vent
don't
on top
spend
of
much time in the garage, so
Uh,
I haven't noticed, but I thought it was cooler.
We're replacing the roof on my house, so that's why debris was on the ground still.
Right.
The house roof was done. We're gonna do the garage roof very soon. But I keep it clean. I have no issues with smell or nothing like that. I wish the neighbors, I'm very friendly with all my neighbors. To this lady I gave last year rabbit droppings for her garden, and she was very thankful, and she brought me cookies. I keep that kind of connection with neighbors, and I also volunteer in the fire department. So I'm really surprised that this come to be a problem, and I hope I'm not the problem myself.
I'm thinking out loud here. I'm wondering, could you consult with an exterminator to see if there's steps that you could take
I can do that.
to minimize any attraction that rats would have to the way your rabbits are presently housed? And then could you also check and see if there's a way that, because I'm thinking that with an exhaust fan in your garage, it would seem to me that that would be a way of ensuring that the ventilation for the rabbits was sufficient, but at the same time moving the rabbits into a more enclosed area so that they're not outside where they potentially are aggravating, or perhaps not, an issue of rats that have decided that they like Irondequoit too. Would you be willing to look into those?
For exterminators' opinions, sure. I can
And-
call exterminator.
You mentioned that you regularly show rabbits and you're involved with people who are really experts in rabbits, as you seem to be. Could you check with them about things that you might do to make your garage a suitable place for them? I assume you have room in the garage for them.
Well, my wife parks the car inside in the winter time, so and the summertime is really not feasible for them to be indoors for the air quality, like I was mentioning. But
What about the basement?
that's basement. We can't do that. I mean, the kids go downstairs. They like to play with rabbits outside mostly. We do bring some rabbits indoors occasionally, but we don't keep them indoors as much. The basement is really finished basement, so we don't want to damage the property indoors. It's just not feasible for us. We're also looking to sell the house within a year and move out, if that helps anybody here.
I'd at least like you to look into the exterminator issue.
I can do that.
I'd like to see something from an exterminator who can maybe assess the issue with rats, not just at your house, but seems to me that what I'm hearing is that there's at least a zone in your neighborhood that between St. Paul and I guess it would be Clinton that seems to have an issue with rats moving in.
Okay. If I can just say something, that raccoons that you see on the Armstrong, they go in a sewer. When I used to walk my dog, that's where they hang out in the sewer system. So I don't know where the rat's actually coming from. I'm not sure if I'm causing that. If I am, I will do what I can.
All I was asking, what I'm thinking is that if an exterminator indicates that there's steps that you could take, because they generally know rats pretty well. That's how they're able to catch them and kill them. So,
Sure. I mean, I don't breed rats. I can try to
I don't know anyone
get
who
the
does, but
I can try. They might be coming from the bird feeders and the three houses in Armstrong that are closed in, and I'm not sure where they're coming from. I can't pinpoint. That's not my job. I can ask for professional advice from exterminator to evaluate my property and to do necessary steps.
All right.
I'm willing to do that.
I think that's important because this issue came up since you was doing the rabbits. It was not there before, at least that anybody knew about. So I think for you to take a leadership role here as far as making sure your neighbors are not suffering one iota because of your hobby, I think that's an important step. I think that would be very good. And I would be more inclined to vote in favor of this permit with that mindset.
I'm willing to help everyone. I'm not against it. If that's the way that I have to go, then I'm willing to go that way.
And forgive me, there were a couple questions that were raised by Mr. Cavallari. The town does not follow up to see what happens to rabbits that are outsourced. The only thing the town would have an interest in is the rabbits that actually live here. And once they're gone, the town's not going to follow that. And the question was what would happen to the rabbits if the permit was denied. That Mr. Softic would have to find an alternative residence for them because they wouldn't be allowed. All right? All right. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Are we suggesting tabling this application?
That thought had crossed my mind. You agreeable to tabling it for a month so you can get that information from the exterminator that might make us feel more comfortable and make your neighbors feel more comfortable?
Sure.
And ultimately, it might make the rabbits feel more comfortable.
Hopefully.
All right.
And I also, while you're at it, look into some alternative for the garage.
Okay, I can look into that. I mean, the cool weather is coming in. That's a possibility too. My concern was just summertime.
Well,
I think summertime is the time when the rats are more active too. That's, that's the thing. Not sure that they're out and about in the wintertime a lot.
I'm not suggesting that you go out and spend a lot of money, but it seems to me your garage on the one side of the house where the lot is large, on that side of the house, maybe you could, build a coop that goes in and out of the garage and has no outside access, or other than venting. If you were to put it on the side of the garage as opposed to behind the house.
I'm sure somebody else would complain from my side of the street, not just from the back now. But we're looking, like I said, we're looking to sell the house. We're going to put it on market very soon. And the rabbits will go with me.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
But thank you very much.
We will call the next case on our agenda.
We're going to table this now or later?
We may do it later.
Okay,
I'm not sure what we're going to do.
okay. Sorry.
That's all right.
Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 1609-2. Upon the matter of request by John Bretz, acting as agent for Linda Bretz, for an area variance to install front yard decorative fencing exceeding maximum permitted height and linear footage on premises 37 Nob Hill in an R1 residential district.
Good evening. My name is John Bretz. I'm here on behalf of my mother, Linda Bretz.
If you'd raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
I believe you all have a copy of the pictures and location map that I sent, and I tried to lay out everything as obviously as possible, but basically what we'd like to do is create a fenced-in area in the front of the house because of the way the backyard slopes away. My mother can't climb stairs or climb hills, so we want to create an enclosure for gardens and a patio in the front yard, which extends from the driveway to a point just past the house and around the corner, so that we can have basically an area for her to enjoy a small patio out front.
And where would the arbor be?
If you look on the, I think it's third page,
Oh,
the
okay,
detail
that's
there,
what
the
that
arbor is right there next to the driveway. That would be the main entrance to where the sidewalk is, if you see the
Okay, so that I couldn't figure out what that meant.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
It's
I
all
guess
right.
I didn't label it. No, I guess I didn't.
All right, so essentially the arbor would be how you would come into this area off of the driveway?
Right, where the existing sidewalk, if you look at the photograph, the existing sidewalk there would be right there, just off the driveway.
And this would be set back about 60 feet from the property line, so even
Yeah,
further.
from the road, yes.
Further from the road.
The corner of the garage is currently 82.6, and we would only be extending out from the front of the garage 11 feet. So the new setback from the fence to the road is 71.6.
Are you gonna be installing a little more patio?
Yes, the idea is to, if you see in the one photograph of the front of the house where the bench swing is, that area back there beyond the sidewalk and the front door is where we want to have a patio. So basically a small brick patio with gardens all the way around it inside the fence. In addition, as I mentioned in the notes in the letter, we want to, on the exterior of the fence, we want to create additional plantings and landscaping, bushes and tall grasses to not only add to the appeal of the look of the front of the house, but also would kind of give that area a little more privacy, as more than just the picket fence. So little visual block.
I was talking to one of your neighbors that I happen to know that I ran into when I was driving by to look at it.
Was it Jack and Kathy, or?
No, further down.
Oh,
And when I
further
first mentioned to him that I was there looking for a fence on the front of your property, he was really opposed to that. And then I said, well, it's going to be up by the front. I showed him the papers and the application. And then he thought it was an absolutely marvelous idea. He thought it'd be great and it'd enhance the
Yeah, we
look
wouldn't,
in the neighborhood, and
we certainly wouldn't want to bring the fence down anywhere near the road, no,
that's what he,
yeah.
that's why I had to show him what it was. Once I showed him what you were
Okay.
looking for, he thought it was terrific, so.
We did speak with my mother's immediate neighbors to the east, Jack and Kathy Evans, and they are delighted. They have no problem with it whatsoever. If you've been to the property, you can see hers is slightly raised higher, and it creates no visual block. The fence would create no visual block of any kind. You almost wouldn't be able to see it.
And this, again, as we have had so many times, this again raises the issue of the 42 versus 48-inch open decorative fence. That, does anybody, have you found anyone that manufactures and has readily available a 42-inch fence?
I did, not of this, well, of this type, this type of fence. It's a very, very typical type of fence, and there are a number of different manufacturers that I found in my research and looking. There is one I think I found that does offer a 42, but it's a 42-inch height, but it's a very light duty, it's only decorative. It's not as, this is the standard residential type fence. It's a little more sturdier than a decorative type. It comes in higher heights for pool enclosures and playgrounds and that type of thing. But this particular one, I couldn't find one that was in a 42-inch height for some reason. But the other aspect is
It might be because most, like 99.9% of fence manufacturers apparently make them 4 feet, not 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, my neighborhood where I live, all the backyards have standard chain link fences, and they're all 48 inches, which is about what you need for a dog. And that's one of the other issues. We were asking for the additional 6-inch, is that my mother lives alone at home, alone since my father passed a few years ago, and we're considering getting her a dog, and she would have a place to go out there where the dog can't jump over the fence or
Okay.
things like that. So that's why we're asking for the additional height.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Just, the fence, is the fence going to have a gate through the arbor, or is the arbor going to have a gate in it, or?
Yes, there actually there's one change that I wanted to make. The plan that you currently have has a gate at the arbor from the sidewalk coming from the driveway, as well as a gate around the corner of the house leading to the back, to the side yard towards the back. We're actually would like to put an additional gate in the front northwest corner to allow access to that side of the yard, and also so that the mailman who comes across from the neighbor's house can come in that side, drop the mail, and leave out the other gate without having to walk around and come in and then go back out again. So to make it more.
The dog's not sitting out there with your mother.
No, he would only be out if she's out there, and but.
I don't see a problem with that, but how's the, right now you're showing the fence going through the arbor. I mean, will that happen that way, or will the arbor have to sit in front of or behind the fence?
What I was planning to do was have the fence come right
To the arbor?
to the arbor on either side of it, and then inside the arbor would be the gate. So I didn't go into too much detail about, basically I was going to have the fence meet the arbor halfway the width of the arbor. So it would basically just end. It's a wooden arbor, and then there's 2 gate posts inside the arbor with the gate to hold the gate.
It'll look nice.
Yeah, very.
And as you can see, the one photograph of the actual fence, which I took from the brochure, shows similar to the type of thing we would like to do with some landscaping, mulch, bushes. Of grasses, things like that, again, to give some visual block so that you're not just seeing a fence, but also to create a nice atmosphere, both inside and outside the fence. That would actually be on the outside of the fence, along the front.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
Hi, my name is Gail Keating. I'm from Nob Hill, and I guess I swear to tell the truth. You want to
Nope,
ask me that?
nope.
Fine. Okay.
The swearing of is of the applicants only, and that is so that,
Okay, no problem. The only reason why I'm here and that I object is because our neighborhood, nobody has fences in our front yard, and it would really honestly look tacky. I mean, he's allowed to do what he's allowed to do, but I oppose to the longer fence that would be in the front yard, and I feel that it would affect our property values. I haven't seen the pictures of what the fence would look like, but nobody has fences in their front yard on the street at all. I mean, and it doesn't go with the character of the neighborhood, and that's pretty much where I was coming from. So, I mean, if he would hide the fence behind bushes, that would be maybe one thing. But
he was talking about that.
yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that, but, a fence up front, because her house is beautiful. It's very nice, and the lawns are very nice, and nobody has the fences, but, I mean, if you would hide the fence, that would look good. That would look good. I mean, that's all I can say, is that I'd like a reasonable rate on return on my real estate when I want to sell. So that's it. Anything?
You could take a look at the picture of the fence.
Yeah,
if
I
you'd
would
like to.
have liked to have seen the pictures.
Well, I'll show you my copy, or he's got a copy,
Yeah,
because it's a nice looking fence.
okay.
This typical style fence, just come 11 feet out from the
Yeah,
corner
one
of
of
the
those
garage
wrought
across,
iron.
and then around the back, and then this arbor would be here over the.
The arbor looks very nice,
And
but
it'd probably be covered with arborvitaes and.
No, you might-
what's the
it's
other-
not going to be a white picket fence?
No.
Eh,
You
And
you
you're
might
gonna
want
put
to
Or
bushes
have
and
tall
stuff?
grasses and
Alright.
bushes like across the front
Alright.
to.
You might want to
not
look
only
at
to
where
hide
he's
the
placing it also.
And I would not have waited. I know that's, okay.
But if you'd like, he'll show you where he's putting it there.
I know.
Well, this is basically, so it's just across here, and the only reason we wanted
Across the
53
house.
was to get to the corner and down.
Well, with the bushes, it might look quite nice.
See, so it's still 71 feet back from the road and up quite a ways.
All right.
Is there anyone else that'd like to
That's
speak
it.
in opposition to the
Have a
application?
good night, gentlemen.
Thank you, you too.
Miss Keating,
What?
what number are you on, Nob Hill?
202.
202. Thank you, dear.
Ms. Keating, I'm sorry. Are you withdrawing your opposition?
Yes.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the application about fences, bushes, arbors, whatever? All right, we'll close the case with respect to that application, move on to the next application.
Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 1609-3. Upon the matter of request by Samuel Day Jr. for an area variance to maintain an existing shed and deck with less than required side setbacks on premises 30 Quay Drive in an R2 residential district.
Samuel Day, 30 Quay Drive.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Okay. As you know, I'm asking for two variances. One is for the utility shed that is too close to the property line according to the town. And I tried to explain to the town, which is in my letter, that the shed was in existence when I purchased the property. And you have a copy of the purchase offer with the shed.
Let me explain something to you about that.
But I already know, I used to be a real estate broker, that
All right.
it comes back to me as the current property owner.
It does. All right.
Okay, but at the time, I wasn't aware of that factor. And again, lawyer didn't do his job
Well,
when I purchased the property. It's all I know.
if I'm looking correctly at this purchase offer, you've purchased this property 41 years ago?
That is correct.
Okay, so the shed is more than 41 years old in its current location?
That is correct.
Okay. I don't know about anybody else, but that's pretty much about all I needed to hear.
Is there anybody in particular that's been complaining about it, or how did this?
No, this is
town just noticed it?
this is anticipation of a possible sale
Oh, okay.
and discussing things legally. You know, I had everything checked, and this was all brought to my attention that I gotta fix that, plus the variance for the deck on the back of the house.
And the deck was on the house when you bought the property?
No,
Okay.
the deck was added to the house under the permit that was issued in 1988, when I had smoke damage, extensive smoke damage to the interior of the house.
Okay.
And we pulled the permit because we gutted the house. And I think I gave you a copy of the permit. And I was under the impression that everything was taken care of because we had the electrical inspection by the underwriters, because we redid the whole inside. House was gutted to studs. We did all the insulation, doors, windows, everything was changed. And the old, where the door is in the picture, is where the deck is. And you can't get down 27 inches. You know, there was a small little deck there. We enlarged it, but we thought it was covered under the new permit, which, come to find out, was not.
And that was in 1989, so that was,
27 years,
27
28 years ago.
okay.
And according to the current code, they said the deck has to be 8 foot off the property line. And I says, well, the house was constructed in 1969, was only 4.7 feet off the property line. Well, that was code then. Code now is it's got to be 8 feet.
Okay.
So I need to fix that.
All right.
And you can see in the picture, if I cut the deck back to 2.5 feet, it's going to go right through my window. And I didn't want to do that either. So those are the two variances I'm after.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
So I guess what we're saying here is if we approve this request, or these requests, that will expedite the sale of the house. Is that right?
Correct.
Without the new owner having to come in and go through this whole thing again.
Yes.
That's the whole idea, right?
Over the last 41 years, there's been a lot of changes in the requirements
Yes.
affiliated with buying and selling property. And 41 years ago, no one would have raised a question about, or very few would have raised a question about permits. You wouldn't have had an instrument survey then. You would have had a tape location map that guesstimated where the boundary lines were in relation to the things. And when they switched over to instrument surveys, we have all found all kinds of fences that aren't really on the property line. They're a little off here or there. Sheds that meander across somebody's line, driveways that aren't in the right place. So we're evolving to everything being seller provide me with a thing that shows I won't have a problem with the town, all that, so.
See, if you see in the picture, you have the picture with the shed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see that nice decorative fence in the back? I pulled a permit for that. But they're saying they didn't get a final inspection, so I have to redo it again. It's hilarious, but I said, I got the permit for that fence. They have the record of it, but they said they didn't have the record of a final inspection by Mr. Irving. He's no longer with the town. He's retired. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, get another one. So I'm looking at 4 permits total, this whole mess to get cleaned up.
All right. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
All right. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? other than yourself. You already did. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about fences, decks, sheds, permits? Seeing none, we'll close the application with respect to that case.
Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 1609-4. Upon the matter of request by Marianne Condello for an area variance to construct a two-car attached garage and laundry room with less than required front and rear setbacks on premises 273 Wall Road in an R2 residential district.
Hello, my name is Mary Ann Condello. I'm at 273 Wall Road.
Raise your right hand. Ms. Condello, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Before I say anything, I noticed that the agenda says I'm in an R2. I've always thought we were in an R1.
According to the zoning code, I believe it was R2, which is similar. R1, R2, and R3 are all the same.
Okay, I was always told it was R1. Mm-hmm. What's the difference then?
Just the size of the house, the square footage, I believe it is.
Single family versus,
I have it right here.
No, I think you get R4 before you have multiple families.
yeah.
Right, R4, it changes. I believe it is, bear with me, I apologize. R2, it's the total floor, the square foot of the residential building shall contain a floor area and a ground floor area of less than the following. So R2, the total floor area and square footage is 900 square feet.
I'm more than that.
And Rob, if I'm...
That's, the 900 square feet is the footprint of the structure. So if you've got a two-story structure, it would potentially, and these are current standards that apply to new structures. So to the extent that your structure existed before this portion of the code was put into effect, it's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Mm-hmm.
So according to the zoning map, when town staff reviewed it, your property's in the R2 zoning district. It doesn't necessarily affect this application. There's a bucket in the zoning code, and I can point out the section to you. It's Article 4 of the zoning code. It relates to RR, R1, R2, and R3 uses, and the regulations are largely the same with the exception of that footprint area for new construction.
According to my calculations, you got 1,118 square feet as it is, so you're not, I think it says it has to be at least 900, right? Not less than?
Correct.
Okay, so you're
The
fine.
minimum of the building size. Has to be a minimum of 900 square feet, so you're fine.
Okay. Okay, I saw that and I thought, I was always told it was R1. Okay, so I'm requesting a variance for a two-car garage with a laundry room attached to the house. And the variance would be needed because the setback is less than 30 feet. Both front and back.
I'm looking at the photograph that was submitted with your application,
Okay,
and in the back of or at the bottom of the picture, there's a round area there that, I'm assuming that's a baseball field?
you're right, that's a baseball diamond.
And is that home plate?
The home plate is the closest to my house.
All right, so it's not going to, that baseball field isn't going to be moving any closer to your house then?
No. I hope not.
And you back up to the school property, right?
Yes, uh-huh.
When I first drove by there, It looked to me like, I'm over here, hello?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Again, I'm used to that. Getting home all the time.
You ought to stand up when you.
I drove by there and I looked at that and I said, this is great, she's got plenty of room. But when I look at the photograph, I think the issue is because the street bends, right?
Yes,
That's the main
uh-huh,
thing.
right. The curve, yes.
So
So-
what we've got to do is either grant a variance here or straighten the street. But I think that's the issue. This is
Curve the garage.
Curve the garage. But it looks to me that.
Can't even curve the garage, though, because that would run into the neighbor across the street's driveway.
Ah,
Yeah.
well, I thought it looked fine when I
Okay.
first looked at that. I didn't see why you would need a variance, but now I understand it,
Right.
and I don't think it should be an issue. I don't know if anybody else objects, but I think it looks like a pretty good plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I noticed that the house and the garage, in proportion to the curve, it's gotta be close as far as the garage corner is gonna be 19 and a half feet off of the road. And it doesn't look like the house right now at that part of the curve is maybe 21 feet, 20 or 21 feet off of the road. So it's not a large difference in my opinion at all. And the way they've got it laid out, it works perfectly.
What you're looking at is one of those tape maps that I was talking about.
Right.
Not a survey, so
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that measure is
Measurement's
accurate.
accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my eyeball likes it.
Yeah.
Do you know how many acres over here?
Okay.
Do you know how many acres your lot is? I suspect it's not an issue, but since it's a relatively large addition, the maximum lot coverage in this district's 25%. And I'm just looking at this map.
Right, and I
roughly-
understand that it is it's under that.
It's under the
Yeah,
25%.
because when I was at the office, the lady there measured it and said that
Okay.
it was under it.
Okay.
Donna?
Mm-hmm.
And just so you understand, to the extent that you'd want to put in a deck or a shed or anything like that, that would all get factored into that lot coverage. So if you're really close to that number, it may be worth giving yourself some flexibility, but I suspect you've already planned for that.
Yeah, there is, and I wouldn't, I
Okay.
had a shed there, I got rid of it. Didn't use it.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Step right up.
Good evening. My name is Adrienne Brauk. I live at number 133 Orimar Drive, which is around the corner from Miss Condello's property. And I would like to speak in favor of it because even though she doesn't know me and I don't know her, I kind of see her out working in her yard and whatever. And her property couldn't be neater. It's as neat as a pin. And I say if she wants to have a garage and a laundry room, and it's less than the required setback, I don't think it's going to be an issue. And she does have an odd arrangement there because she's on the bend. So I don't really have a problem with it, and I just want to give credit because we have zombie houses in the neighborhood. So credit to the people who keep up their property. And that's really all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Sure,
She's my mom.
I gathered that.
Yes. And one thing with regard to the laundry room, she goes up and down the stairs practically on a daily basis, which concerns me. So I think having that in the garage on that level would be very beneficial to her, as well as having an enclosed garage too. I mean,
I noticed from the tape location map, that she's gone 49 years without a garage.
yes. I grew up there. It was
Wow.
not fun in the winter, let me tell you.
All right, anyone wish to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone like to talk about it? We'll consider the case closed. We had received photos and some other information with respect to 2521 St. Paul Boulevard, but I don't believe the applicant is here.
Yes, he is.
He's here.
Oh, he is here.
Yep.
Okay, then. All right, is there a motion to take the application pertaining to 2521 St. Paul Boulevard off the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just about everyone seconded it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is unanimously carried. So the matter is now off the table and can be called.
Case number ZB 1608-1, upon the matter of request by Jared and Shayna Renee for an area variance to install a 6-foot-high front yard fencing on a corner lot with non-conforming fence type and exceeding maximum permitted height and linear footage on premises 2521 St. Paul Boulevard in an R1 residential district.
Mr. Renee, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. So we received the email, I think it was an email, from you that had 3 pictures connected to it that showed the style of fence that you're now contemplating and an example of the plans of how you would be landscaping the fence.
Yes, sir.
Which sounds remarkably similar to the kinds of things we were talking about in August.
It does. So I had some time to just kind of, I took your advice, drove around town quite a bit, looked for some similar fences. Ultimately, the wife and I got together and agreed that this style of fence, not only was it more conducive to the recommendations you folks were giving me, but also something that we think looks quite sharp. So I would still request the 6-foot-high and the linear footage that we were looking for, but this would be the style of fence we'd be installing.
And your plan is to plant some kind of shrubs in front that would soften the impact of the fence as people are driving, particularly northbound on St. Paul, is that right?
Yes, sir. Some style of probably emerald green arborvitae or something like that, nice and neat and easy to maintain.
I do want to make note of the fact that we were provided with an email message that was sent last week that speaks an objection to homeowners who wish to wall off their properties in their side front yards on the boulevard or anywhere in our town. And basically it's a goes on and says that when one purchases their property with side backyards, especially on the boulevard, if they had done their homework, they should know the laws. If I wanted to live in a fenced-off community, I would have moved to a community that allowed this type of fencing, and basically doesn't want any properties to wall off our beautiful community. So that was received.
September 12th from Cynthia Blair.
Yeah, it was received. It's from Cynthia Blair, but it doesn't indicate where she lives. So I don't know if she lives near you or not. She apparently lives in town. And what I'll say with respect to that is that was the concerns that we were voicing to you last time was with respect to a 6-foot white solid vinyl fence. So are there any other questions or comments that anyone has?
In reference to the linear footage, I'm for the linear footage, but I'm still drawing exception to the 6-foot-high, especially if you're going to put the arborvitaes anyway. In my opinion, you don't really necessarily need the 6-foot-high. And again, being that you want to go around the side yard and then into the front yard, I think a 6-foot high fence would not be aesthetically pleasing, and again, I'd like to see it stay at 4 feet. Except for directly behind your house, you could make it 6 feet, but, I'm not gonna be voting for the 6 foot. I think the 4 foot is, good, and again, the linear, as far as doing the whole thing, I'm okay with. I like the style of the fence too that you chose.
Yeah. The 6 foot high is, in my opinion, I get quite a bit of pedestrian foot traffic through there. I don't know as though we need to necessarily rehash all that we talked about in the first meeting, but I've had ewes from the boys' home run directly through my yard into my property through my backyard. They can easily hop a 4-foot fence. Arborvitaes are not. That's an additional cost to me too. I'm doing that to achieve some privacy. The 4-foot high fence, I have a dog. Could he jump it? I don't know. But the reality is that due to a few of the specific issues we talked about as it relates directly to my property in proximity to those other places, that's why I want the 6-foot high fence. I would prefer not to have anybody
I know
my yard.
I know it sounds like another ultimatum, or not ultimatum, but another way to solve it, for lack of a better word. If you did 6 foot along the back, and then 6 foot to the corner of the house, which is the backyard technically, would give you security from them going into the actual back of the house. And then you 4-footed all around the side yard and the front like you want. You would have the security from them, from anybody running through your backyard behind your house, but your side yard would be private with a fence, but not 6 foot high. You following my idea or no?
No, but I think part of what you're saying is that I would have to erect more fencing than I'm.
Just one more piece, and it's not a large piece because it was by your house, from the right rear corner of your house to your backwards to your lot line. That could be 6 foot, and have a gate there, so that the kids could play into the other side yard, which is enclosed with a 4-foot fence. And then it would be aesthetically appealing. You'd have the safety of nobody going into your backyard because you'd have a 6-foot fence there. It could even be a solid 6-foot fence, for privacy, so your patio furniture back there and stuff wouldn't be seen, but your side yard, kids could still play in it. It would hold them in along with your dog.
The whole idea, though, behind not having an additional fence there, I think you're talking about running it north and south from the north corner of my property, is that I'm trying to achieve as much. I don't have a lot of yard as it is. I have no backyard, really, virtually. I have 4 children. It's very small. So the idea would be that if we were to put a swing set back there or a trampoline, whatever, some sort of equipment for them to use, we're going to run out of space pretty quickly. You add another fence to that, and now I'm breaking up the yard. I mean.
But if you were to put a swing set in the side yard and a trampoline in the side yard, there'd still be a safety factor there because you'd have it fenced in with a 4-foot fence.
I mean, the side of my house there, for all intents and purposes, in my mind, is my backyard, and that would still be, you hop the 4-foot fence, you have access to my property. So the rear fence there, to me, isn't achieving me.
Unfortunately, it's the layout of a corner lot, and that's a deterrent because it's out on St. Paul Boulevard, and it's again, we had one just down the street, and the gentleman has finished his fence. It's a nice looking fence. He's rehabbing the house, and then there's another one that one we approved about a month ago, and then there was another one on the corner of Thomas Avenue and St. Paul Boulevard in Sagamore, with the 4-foot. And they both look nice. That matter of fact, that one, both of them came out great.
Were one of them 5 feet, though? I thought one of them was a little taller.
Oh, no, I don't believe so.
One
It
down
was a linear- it
Thomas
was a
Avenue
4
was a-
feet linear footage.
There was a guy with a garden, wasn't it down tight?
That's Thomas Avenue.
That was, yeah.
It's
quite a
Rose
ways
Garden.
down.
Is that 5?
Pharmacist Wegmans. He has a 5-foot fence on Thomas.
Right.
Surrounds, and I'm not sure what the height of the fence is in front of the old Dr. Lawrence's house next to Genrick's. That's Genrick's.
I guess really my contention is, as far as the 4 to 6 foot, again,
You're
I
looking
prefer
for
not to
security.
I'm just looking for security here, and I don't, and this is, again, I guess I'm offering all my opinions, I guess, but aesthetically, I don't really see much of a difference, especially since, like you mentioned, the trees will be blocking them, the landscaping, and in addition to that, I have 2 tall pines and a tree that's going to be hiding it from north, that east and west portion as you drive north from view anyways. I'm interested, there was a burglary next door to my house not too long ago. Like I said, I've had kids run through my yard on more than one occasion, more than a handful actually. And I'm really looking for some security that I do not think a 4-foot fence, trees or not, will provide.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about it generally? Looked like
Yeah.
you had something else you wanted to say.
Well, I guess if the decision to approve or not to approve hinges on the 4 to 6 foot, if I would be willing, I suppose, to compromise to maybe a 5-foot fence, but I really don't see, I think we're just kind of splitting hairs there. I think the way that I'm going to, you've seen my property. I do my very best with limited time to take care of everything that I have there. I've only improved the property since I moved in my opinion, and this is going to look really nice. I'm going to ensure that it does. I will not, everything I've done, you can ask any of my neighbors, it's going to look sharp, it's going to look nice, and it's not going to change the aesthetics of our neighborhood. I'm trying to achieve safety and security for my family in a town that I love, and I suppose if your decision tonight hinges on 4 to 6 feet, let's talk, but.
Nowhere do I want you to think that I am criticizing your home. It is nice, you take good care of it. I appreciate that a lot. So I don't want this to be a negative. You've got a nice house there, you should be proud of it, and you do a nice job.
All right. Anybody else from the board have any questions or comments? All right, then we're going to close the hearing with respect to this matter, and we're going to be in recess for 10 minutes. So I think that would be 8:52. No.
Yeah.
No. No, it would be 8:54.
10 minutes.
Trouble with the dial.
of a sudden if somebody wants to cross the road, that you should be able to park there. Coming down tight, it's an odd right behind it. Very good.
turns into the town hall? I turn.
All right, we're going to reconvene for the deliberative portion of our meeting. I do not see Mr. Softick in the room. I do see Mr. Bretz, and I see Mr. Day, and I see Ms. Condello, and I see Mr. Renee. So we will do 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then go back to 1. Makes it easy. Okay, the first item for our consideration is the application pertaining to 37 Nob Hill. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anybody wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion, 37 Nob Hill, that we approve the application. I do not see, I don't think that the variance is a significant variance. I think it will not deter on the character of the neighborhood. Even one of the neighbors that was here tonight changed her mind when she saw how nice it would look. It's not an environmental issue. It is a self-created issue because she wants to have a little spot to sit in the front. The back of her home is not conducive to having a patio because it's a big hill. So based on that criteria, 37 Nob Hill, I think we should approve both the both of the two variances, the linear foot and the half a foot to a 4 foot high fence. It's going to be a decorative fence.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're all present. Well, we have 7 board members that are present, including Mr. Upson, who is our alternate member, who is here tonight in place of Mr. Paulino. So we do have 7. The next application pertains to 30 Quay Drive. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
Can do it again. I'll make a motion on Quay Drive. This is 30 Quay Drive. We have a variance for the offset or the setback for the shed and for the deck. The shed has been there for many years. I do not think it's a environmental issue. It doesn't affect the character of the neighborhood. It is a self-created issue because, well, in the deck part of it, because he did the deck himself, wasn't aware of the setback at the time, and the shed was already there. So again, that's not self-created. I don't believe the variances are significant. 2 feet for the deck setback and 2.8 feet for the setback of the shed. So again, I don't believe that, I believe that we should approve this based on that criteria.
I'll second it.
Everybody?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and we have a full complement of board members tonight. Next application on our agenda is for property at 273 Wall Road. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make an application or a motion with respect to this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this variance request with the following findings. It's a well-thought-out plan. It is conducive to the people living there. It is not going to change the character of the neighborhood. There is no other way to do this except by adding the garage and the laundry room on the same floor as the building. It's a fairly substantial request because it's a fairly substantial addition, but there is room for it, even though it exceeds the code by some footage here, but there's plenty of room for that. It will not have any adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And it is self-created because it doesn't exist and we want it, but that self-creation is justifiable to get what you want.
I'll second.
One thing I would add is that with respect to the rear setback, because it backs up to a area that is used as a baseball field in conjunction with the school, the usual concerns about being in closer proximity to other structures does not apply in this case, because even if they were to move the baseball field closer, it still wouldn't pose a negative impact. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and we have a full complement of board members tonight. The next item is the application pertaining to 2521 St. Paul Boulevard. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application? Then I will. I will move that we grant the variance as requested with respect to the change to the neighborhood character. I don't really believe that the kind of fence that the applicant is now requesting will adversely change the character of the neighborhood. The applicant has come a long way in a month towards meeting the concerns that we raised regarding walling off the property and the concerns that were expressed in the email that was received from Ms. Blair about walling off properties in town. This is an open style fence. There are several other properties in town that we have approved with this style of fence, none of which, as I regularly go through those areas of town, have had any adverse impact upon the neighborhood that's discernible or that has been brought to our attention. The alternatives that don't require a variance would restrict and limit the amount of the yard that he could safely use with his children, and which would safely confine his pets. If you look at it in a number-wise, it would be a substantial request, but I think when looked at in the context of the circumstances on the lot, its positioning and the surrounding neighborhood, I don't believe it's a substantial request, especially given the fact that he is going to be planting arborvitae and other natural growing things between the fencing and the road to soften the impact. I also think the fact that it's a black open style fence greatly reduces the visual impact. I think that those style of fences have demonstrated in the areas that they have been used that they don't adversely impact the way some of the other style of fences do. It will not have any detrimental impact on the physical or environmental condition if it's granted. It's self-created in the sense of every application is self-created because somebody who bought a house wants to have a variance from what the requirements are, and the need for it arises generally, as in this case, out of their desire to use their property in a particular way. But I do not believe that that is sufficient to deny the variance. And with respect to the 4-foot versus 6-foot aspect of it, I understand Mr. LaPerry's wish to confine it to the 4, but I don't see the 6-foot really to be that different. And if it's makes him feel more secure and is a little more secure, then I think that's not something that is detrimental enough to say that we won't allow him to have a taller fence.
In not agreeing with that, but I am agreeing with the linear footage. I'm okay with the linear footage. I mean, is it one variance or are they two separate variances?
Two variances.
Two variants. So we'll take up the linear footage variance first. All right? Is there a second to the motion?
Second it.
And same comments, same findings. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, Jim. Is adding of the bushes and plantings and so forth, is that a condition of this?
What I would, when we get to the 6 foot, I was going to indicate that the 6 feet is granted with the understanding that the applicant will be planting those things that he indicated he would plant.
That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. We have a full complement of board members. The second motion will be to approve the 6 foot fence as opposed to 4 foot or the 3.5 that the ordinance requires. And I would offer up the same findings with respect to this aspect of the variance. I would note that as a condition of it, that the applicant is to plant in front of the fence as represented.
Can I second that with a
Sure.
modification of the condition?
Mhm.
That it's plant and maintain the shrubs?
I'll add plant and maintain in front of fence as represented.
You're kind of leaving that open in a broad way in reference to how many plantings all the way around it, or he could plant one bush on one side and one bush on the other, and that is a planting in front of the fence. Again, I'm not in agreement with this whole idea, but if you're going to do it, you're going to have to say.
That's why I put as represented, and with reference to the photos that he sent, his representation on that aspect of it through the photographs was that he was going to be planting the arborvitae in a way where when they matured, they would grow together and form a natural barrier as opposed to being 1 or 2 or planted 6 feet apart. That's why I put the as represented. That photo, yes, the photo at the end of the application. So I put as represented because I don't know how many arborvitae that will actually take to do that, and I don't want to limit him necessarily to arborvitae if he decides that there's something else. But the idea is that he will have plantings that will form a natural barrier in front of the fence so that to decrease the visibility of the fence to those who would be passing by.
Not to tie it to the number of plantings, but are there particular locations on the property where you'd like to see the plantings? And the only reason I raise it is I just note here, there's a reference on this document to parenthetical that says east side of fence. I
Yes.
just want to make sure that
The
our
east-
understanding is consistent with the applicant's.
Yes, the east side of the fence is the St. Paul Boulevard side of the
Okay.
property, which is what the focus of our concern is and has been with
Not
respect to that
necessarily.
application.
I don't think a 6-foot high fence should be in the front, and he's bringing.
Oh, no,
He's bringing it out to the front of the house too.
Right, I understand.
So,
That's all on the east side. That's what I'm,
well, and then the southeast side.
yes, east and
Facing
southeast,
the
as
other street.
represented on east and southeast side of fence.
It's gonna be a lot of work.
Has everyone read this email that came from Blair?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, she brings up some very good points in this email. And I gotta wonder if more of the neighbors aren't thinking of the same thing, but we really don't know, because this is the only neighbor we've heard from, I guess. But she's written this to say this is really, she searched all around Rochester to find the right neighborhood to live in, and she goes around it quite now. She doesn't want to live in a fenced-off town, and it just seems like she's got some very solid points in this email that we should be considering here.
There also was another gentleman that came in at the last meeting that I believe wasn't for it.
Right, and
again, because it was out on St. Paul Boulevard, it's going to make it look awkward.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm leaning with Mr. Lupari on this one because I think the St. Paul side, I agree, 4-6, but the front of the house is where the problem is, wrapping that full C. I think this side provides the protection needs from people running from St. Paul, and then the other security measures he put in place is the same that everyone else has, visual neighbors, etc. So I'm leaning more toward Ms. Lupari's side that this should be
to a
reduced
4-foot fence from the
on the same-
southeast corner of the house out to the fence line?
Right, but nothing in the front. I agree
Nothing
with
in front of the house.
Right.
Right.
And that just goes with the character of the neighborhood and the character of what we've approved before.
Well, and I think that's the point of this email too, is the character of the neighborhood is what she's referring to, and she doesn't want to see it changed.
And I take every single one of her points to heart with respect to what he was proposing the last time, which was a white vinyl fence that looks like a wall. And even the board-on-board fence that we talked about, I saw one or two of those in the last month and didn't think that would be any kind of an improvement. This kind of fencing that he's looking at now, I think, is a tremendous improvement, and I think it strikes a balance. It doesn't it doesn't create the wall impact. Yes, it's a barrier, but it doesn't stand out as a barrier like as those other kinds of solid fencing. But what do other board members think with respect to the that question in the front of the property?
If he was gonna go all green, let's say, just putting arborvitaes up, it's still creating some type of a wall, one way or the other. It's gonna hide the fence, but if it's gonna come a little more natural, I think that's gonna blend in a little better than just white vinyl.
What about the portion between the fence line and the front of the house?
The same thing, if
Well,
it's
not
covered.
It's the way the town looks at the property, it would be the southeast corner of the house that would be the front of the house.
Same thing if it's gonna be covered, in my opinion.
That's my feeling. If it's screened off with plantings, then he has compromised with us.
It's a tough spot, but I agree with Joe. I think if it's gonna be covered up.
There's
It serves his
again,
purpose.
and I've brought this up before, there's two homes at the end of Kearney Drive on Portland Avenue, near where you live, that have two beautiful walls of shrubs.
Yeah.
And behind it, they have a 4-foot fence. And it's a very secure, you can't see anything into their yards. It's solid. Even in the wintertime, you can't see into their yards. And I don't believe they're arborvitae style trees or bushes.
No,
But they're solid. And it's a 4-foot fence behind them to code. And that would give you all the privacy you need. And he's going to put the plantings there anyway, so why break the code or make a variance on the code when you're going to put you're going to have a solid, you're going to have bushes anyway, so that'll hide and secure things. And if it's right there up against the bushes, to me, it's secure.
Well, 4 foot isn't the code, because the code is 3.5.
Well, but I mean,
4 is
4 foot
closer
a
to code than
comparable-
6
Right.
6 feet.
4 foot is what we've been approving for quite a while now. Right. And it's a decorative, it's a good-looking fence, and this way, if he does have a gap in the shrubs or you know, plants 7 or 8 shrubs, and then he's got a nice little gap or whatever to make it look stylish, as opposed to a full, you know, at least it's a normal-looking presentation as opposed to something that looks utilitarian or whatever.
What would be your guess, estimate on how much time it would take to get those bushes up there?
Well, it depends on the style of the bush, but obviously, I think the ones on Portland were grow pretty fast. You know, some arborvitaes you can buy 6-foot-high arborvitaes right from the store, but they're expensive.
They're much more expensive.
Much more expensive as opposed to buying a 2-foot one and taking 7 years to grow up. But you know, anyway.
A little fertilizer helps too.
Right. But those bushes along Portland, they're pretty fast growing. I don't know the name of them, but
it's a hedge.
Right. I had a similar hedge at a house I owned on Norcrest, and when I bought the house, they were way out of control, and I chopped them all down to nothing. Within 2 years, they were up 4 foot 5 feet already. I mean, they just that quick, and I made a nice hedgerow out of it. So certain style bushes grow quickly.
Indications the arborvitae has a slow growth rate.
Right. So again, you know.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I didn't vote yet because I did not hear a lot of what Bob said, so I'm not even sure what the negative side of this is, other than that it's the fence is too high. Is that what that's what that was all about?
Well, it's a front yard fence.
Yeah, the
It
front
changes
yard.
the character of the neighborhood, and it basically walls off.
Okay, so I'll do a nay.
All right, so that motion fails, 3 votes in favor, 4 opposed. Does someone wish to make another motion with respect to the height of the fence that can be the distance?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I got kind of lost on that. That was the motion for the 6-foot fence or the 4-foot fence?
6-foot.
The 6-foot fence, okay.
I'll make a motion that we allow a 4-foot-high black style open fence that he showed us in his examples to do the linear footage that he wants around the property line the way he wants to come out to the front of the house and then to the front corner of the house, the way he originally asked for it. 4 foot high, as far as I'm concerned, with or without shrubbery. Just the fence alone, I think will look prettier, and if he wants to cover it with some shrubbery, that's fine. If he doesn't, I'm okay with that too. It's a more, it keeps in character of the neighborhood. Environmentally, it's not an issue. The other, it is a self-created problem because obviously he's looking for play space for the children. But based on that criteria, we are giving him the linear footage to block in that whole corner. So I think that's what we should do based on that criteria.
So the 4-foot fence would be along the course that he laid out on the original application?
Yes.
Extending, I think
He's
extended in front.
He's basically following his lot line from the northeast corner of his house toward St. Paul Boulevard, from St. Paul Boulevard toward the corner of the street, back toward the front of the house along the street, and then back toward the
Southeast corner.
southeast corner of the house. That's
Okay.
where he's bringing it
All
to.
right, that's what I wasn't clear on.
That's what the map was originally.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have the original map in front of me tonight. That's why I was. All right, so that's essentially for the 4-foot fence then along St. Paul Boulevard up to, as I think it was the north side of where the big trees are, over the driveway and then up to the house.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Over the driveway. There's no drive. He's not going over a driveway.
No, over to the driveway.
No, he's not going over to the driveway. He's going over to, he's coming, south, not quite to the corner, but toward the corner. Then he's going back toward the front corner of the house, and he's bringing it right back
Oh,
to
it's
the corner.
not the front, it's not the driveway. I don't have the map in front of me, so it's not the driveway. He's gonna be 10 foot south of the front of the southeast corner of the house, and then he's gonna go 10 feet north to the southeast corner of the house.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just one comment for the board before that goes to a vote. I just want to make sure, before we consider that proposal, that it's acceptable to the applicant. He may not even wish to build this fence at 4 feet. So it may be helpful to give him an opportunity just to address the fact that now, the 6 foot's been denied. We're considering the 4 foot. Maybe there's some alternative fence style he might wish to consider, or maybe a compromise to your point, Mr. LaPerry, about, certain portion being 6 foot, certain portion being 4 foot. I just want to make sure we give him an opportunity to, either say yay or nay to the 4 feet before you vote on it.
I think he's coming up. We'll certainly give you that opportunity.
How you guys doing? I would like to find maybe even more common ground than that. I think and not to my credit or anything, but I've compromised quite a bit from my original proposal. I'm sorry.
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas. In the first meeting, I'm just surprised, because in the first meeting, you were willing to let me erect a vinyl privacy fence, and then I compromised quite a ways with you guys, and I was just surprised. You had seemed like you were very much in my favor and thought that my plans were great, but then tonight, after a pretty sizable compromise, yeah. And then the email, I don't know if that directly relates to my property.
My intent was just to give you an opportunity to address whether or not a 4 foot fence would be acceptable, or
sorry.
if you want some, the board's made their decision, so I just want to make sure we're not directing our attention
Sorry, I
in a way
thought-
that's not helpful to you.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I mean, if this is the compromise, is 5 feet acceptable? We already have there's a 7 foot fence protecting the school on the corner of Thomas and St. Paul. There's a 5 foot fence right across from that. I don't think I'm asking too much, especially since a couple of the points you're bringing up, the southeast portion of that fence is covered by 2 massive pine trees and and a third tree.
That's the decision, and then the question is, do you want it or don't? I have no doubt that if you put this in and you do it the way you do it, you're going to be happy with it. You're just,
I know, but one of the strong, the reason the 6 foot was being discussed so much was because you were saying that basically that southeast, you were worried that was like the final. It sounded to me like that was kind of one of the final sticking points. But I'm telling you that side of the fence is already softened by well maintained and landscaped pine trees that are already there in front of it to shield it. I guess the other side of the coin would be like, you're saying he's going to have trees there anyways. Well, I guess that's kind of my point too. I'm going to have trees there, so it's 4 to 6 anyways. I don't know, man.
You can't get any closer than a 4-3 decision, so.
Is there room in here for, am I up here just to say whether or not I'm accepting a 4, or is there room to say, can we go to a 5? Is it?
What I was driving at is whether or not you wanted the board to consider Mr. LaPerry's suggestion earlier about a portion of the fence being 6 foot and then a portion being 4 foot. Or potentially, if you...
It wasn't necessarily a portion, it was an area on the northeast corner of the house where he could put a 6-foot fence to the back lot line of the house if he was worried about people going through the backyard area.
His concern, it seemed to me, was people coming off of St. Paul.
Right. But again, that was my motion, and, if he doesn't want that other piece, which I understand he doesn't necessarily need that other piece, but,
I guess we'll open that up for the motion right now is for a 4-foot fence. The 6-foot fence failed 3 to 4, and the applicant's posing the question of 5. So, I mean, I didn't have a problem with the 6-foot fence. I'm not going to have a problem with a 5-foot fence. I don't know how other members of the board feel about that.
I think 4 foot's appropriate.
I guess I would agree with the 4 foot.
5 foot works, 6 foot works,
I will
4
work with
foot
me.
works.
I wouldn't mind 5 either. I don't know how many it is, but, I think what bothers me about that whole thing is that he's having a tough time with this.
I can appreciate that.
He's having a tough time
I
with
know
this.
he's having a tough time with it, and I feel bad for being the downer on it. But
Yeah, well,
it is what it is, and again, we've had similar. There's 2 others that we've looked at just in the last year.
well, we can still go for the 5, right?
If we defeat
There's a
the
motion.
4, then we
If
can
you
make a
defeat the
motion
four-
for 5.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
change your
All right.
vote.
So, all those in favor of the motion for a 4-foot fence, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Nay. So there's 1, 2, 3, right? Mr. Upson, myself, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Antini, Mr. Evans. Did you cast the vote one way or the other?
I haven't cast a vote one or the other. I'm still studying it. I'll go nay. I think 5 is fine.
All right, so that motion for a 4-foot fence fails, 2 in favor, 5 opposed. So I'll make a motion that we approve on all the same conditions a 5-foot fence. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right.
Get this going.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? And did everybody vote? I believe that carried 5 votes in favor. Five votes in favor, I believe. Let me just check. Mr. Evans was an aye.
Correct.
I was an aye. Mr. Intini was an aye. Mr. Thomas was an aye. Mr. Upson was an aye. Mr. Hammond was a nay. And Mr. Perry was a nay. So that third motion carries 5 votes in favor, 2 opposed, no abstentions. The full complement of the board is here.
I'm sure it's going to look good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The last item on the agenda is the application pertaining to 76 Paxton Road. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes,
This one's an unlisted action, Mr.
or an
Chairman.
unlisted action. Okay, so for an unlisted action, we have to have a motion for a negative declaration.
Michelle's passing around.
Oh, okay.
Is this the one we were thinking about tabling, or?
Yeah, I thought we were on the table this.
Yeah. So I would, it's an unlisted action for seeker purposes. If we're tabling the motion, do we have to do this tonight?
You don't.
Okay, then I will move to table this application,
Second.
and we can defer a seeker determination until the future. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and a full complement of board members is present.
Mr. Chairman, I missed who seconded that.
Mr. Antini seconded that.
Perfect, thank you.
And that concludes the cases that are on our agenda for tonight, but with our...
Andre seconded. Andre seconded.
Andre seconded. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I knew it came from that side. I wasn't looking.
Colored hair.
It's out here.
And with our packets was a draft of the minutes of our meeting of August 1st of 2016. Mr. Upson was present. Who was not present that night? Mr. Hammond was not present. Oh, it's listed right there in front of me, too. So, did everyone have a chance to review the draft of the minutes from the August 1st meeting? All right. I would make a motion to, were there any changes or corrections that anyone noted alterations should be made? Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Sorry, I did have, under number 1, for Renee's, the question and comments says privacy can be accomplished with obtaining a variance, or should I say without?
I think it would be without.
I would propose or
Yeah, that
move
should,
that change.
yes.
Got it.
All right. With that alteration, I'll move to approve the minutes as amended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, 7 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and the full complement of board members is present, although Mr. Hammond didn't vote and Mr. Polino is not here tonight. And we are adjourned.
Oh, I had a couple of concerns,
Yes,
and I maybe just want to mention them.
we're not adjourned.
Number 1 is, I don't know if there's a procedure in place that we can recommend to the town board to change the zoning code to allow a 4-foot fence. We waste a lot of time and go through a lot of stuff on these 3.5-foot fences, and like it's been said many times, most manufacturers make a 4-foot fence. If there's some way we can get the town board to approve as part of the zoning ordinances, 4-foot fences, I think we've been taking a big step in the right direction.
I would then I would move that we adopt a resolution requesting the town board to investigate the feasibility of amending the ordinance to allow fencing of 4-foot height as opposed to 3.5-foot height in order to conform with what manufacturers have available.
I second.
Any discussion?
In what zoning districts? In residential districts only?
Wherever 3.5-foot fences that they consider altering that to a 4-foot requirement.
Yeah, I'm not sure a formal resolution is necessary. I mean, you could just, at the board's urging, to the director of planning, and ask her to.
I just wanted to see what the consensus of the board was on.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? So you can just relay to the town board that the zoning board unanimously thinks that 4 feet makes more sense than 3.5.
We will do that, yeah,
Fences.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Which they've done for several years.
Okay, that's part 1.
It's on the list.
Part 2.
Part
you.
2, and I've just about given up on this, but I still think we should have magnetic signs to put on our cars that say zoning board, so when we go to these neighborhoods, we're at least somewhat identified as having some business
Good night.
there. And I thought we had a handle on that.
About 3 years ago, we were told they were in the works.
Well, then I heard that maybe the town could actually make them. Then I heard that's not possible. I don't know what else.
If I can just chime in, we don't have the capacity here in town. We don't have those materials, but Russ, we can talk offline, certainly, if this is something that the board would like us to revisit.
it would be handy because sometimes people wonder what that car is driving around the neighborhood looking and.
Oh, absolutely. No, I
Walking in backyards.
understand the, yeah, I understand the, why you would want something like this. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm hoping that the expense is not so great that we couldn't get, 2 of those signs for each car, one in the back, one on the side, something like that.
Next, you're going to want a new car. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that would be good.
No, thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other concerns? Any other items for the board? We are adjourned then. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.